Good evening. Thank you for coming. Welcome to our event. I'll just getting the presentation up. Here we go. Oh, sorry, I don't do PowerPoint very often. Sorry, this is embarrassing. Where do you press play? Slideshow, there we go. Right, postcards from the International Authors Forum. My name is Katie Webb. I work with King's, with Maureen Duffy, who you'll hear more about later. And I coordinated the International Authors Forum between 2011 and 2016. This map shows you where the authors who are contributing to tonight's event, some live and some in recorded form, come from. And the film we just watched was made by the artist Jong-soon from Korea about her project, Another Way of Seeing. More of work is on display next door in the old committee room. And I'd urge you to visit the exhibition after the talks tonight if you haven't done so already. Through Another Way of Seeing, collaborates with students who are visually impaired to create visual art because she believed they would have original methods of perception that would differ from those who are sighted. The students have a chance to participate in an art form which, in Korea, is largely inaccessible to them in mainstream education, and the artist explores the central question which leads her work: what does it mean to see? In doing so, not only does she find other ways of seeing, but she makes art accessible to those who are visually impaired. In Marrakesh, in Morocco, in June 2013, government representatives from nearly 200 countries came together and signed the Marrakesh Treaty, a copyright treaty administered by the World Intellectual Property Organization, which is an agency of the United Nations based in Geneva, which regulates copyright internationally. This particular treaty is intended to place limits on the copyright which protects the work of authors and gives them the opportunity to make a living from their work, so that their works can be more easily made accessible to people who are blind or visually impaired by, for example, converting those works into braille or large print versions. In its very design, the work of Jong-soon and Another Way of Seeing already provides this service. Her work is accessible to people who cannot access visual art in the most obvious way and does far more than just help them see it. If she is to make a living from her work as an artist, however, and be able to continue providing this service, she will need copyright protection to give her the means to do so. Tonight, we are here to explore the relationship between authors' work and their rights, as well as to think about the kinds of services authors perform in the world and the services on offer to support them in doing so, provided by initiatives such as the International Authors Forum, which brings together authors and associations of authors all over the world, advocates for their rights, and finds ways for authors to exercise those rights and, crucially, be paid for the uses of their work. These rights help safeguard their livelihoods and their profession. To define some terms, copyright is the legal right protecting an author's work from being used without his or her permission or terms for payment, an author's means to make a living. And the term author, in the copyright context, doesn't just mean a writer, but includes creators of all kinds: photographers, designers, scriptwriters, visual artists, etc., so long as they are the one responsible for the original creative expression. I'm now going to play our second film, a contribution made by an author from Iraq, Muayyad Sari, who's here tonight, who's made this documentary and whose photographs of Iraq are also on display next door and are very well worth seeing. Whilst enjoying this film, I invite you to consider the value of Muayyad's work as an author in creating it, what service work such as this performs in the world, beyond producing work for our consumption. His work, alongside are examples of the importance of individual creative expression as practical action in the face of adversity and threats to cultural diversity, which is indeed under threat in so many ways. I'd also like to draw your attention to the postcards in front of you, one of Muayad's pictures on the front. And I don't expect that you'll want to hand them in to us at the end, but I did suggest that you might write your responses, comments or questions throughout the evening. And if you want to, a contact email address if you would like to know more about this kind of work, and leave them with us at the end. But if you're like me, you probably want to take that home, so I think they're really lovely. Anyway, so I will let's hear from our second author. Thank you, Barbara.
بلاد ما بين النهرين، حيث ابتدأ الإنسان مسيرة الحضارة. كانت البداية قبل آلاف السنين في جنوب العراق. قدم الإنسان الرافديني للبشرية أسس تطوره، فاخترع وأنشأ الكثير، ولعل الكتابة هي أهم هذه الإنجازات، حيث انبعثت أولى الحروف من أوروك، أولى المدن بعد الطوفان، الرياضيات، علم الفلك، الزراعة وإدارة الدولة، وأعداد لا تحصى من الابتكارات التي لا زالت تذهل العقل وتثبت عبقرية الإنسان الذي كان وراء تلك الحضارات. ويعد الدين من الأمور والمجالات التي اهتمت بها هذه الحضارات منذ القدم، فاختلفت الديانات في بلاد ما بين النهرين، واختفت الكثير منها، وبقيت بعضها محتفظة بعبق تلك الحضارات. الصابئة المندائية إحدى أقدم الديانات الموجودة في العراق، والتي تعتبر إحدى أقدم الديانات التوحيدية. ارتبطت المندائية ببلاد الرافدين منذ آلاف السنين، وهناك آراء مختلفة حول موطنها الأصلي. يحدثنا الدكتور خزعل الماجدي عن النظريات الموجودة حول أصل المندائية.
الحقيقة هناك يعني نظريات كثيرة حول أصل الصابئة المندائيين، وبالدرجة الأساس هناك نظريات شرقية وغربية. يعني احنا نقول عليها بالمادة العلمية نظريات الأصل الشرقي ونظريات الأصل الغربي. نظريات الأصل الغربي أبدأ بها، اللي هي ترى بأن المندائيين أتوا إلى الوادي الرافدين إلى العراق من الأردن وفلسطين، من شرق الأردن وفلسطين، باعتبار أن التعميد كان يجري في نهر الأردن، وأنهم بقايا النبي زكريا، يعني النبي يحيى بن زكريا، وأنهم فرقة من الفرق اللي كانت موجودة في الزمن المحصور بين اليهودية والمسيحية، وأحيانا يضعوهم بعد المسيحية. والحقيقة هذه مجموعة كثيرة من الكتاب والمؤلفين والمفكرين حتى بحثوا فيها، ومنهم ليد سبارسكي والباحثة الشهيرة جدا اللي هي ليدي دراور، التي كتبت كتابها المعروف عن الصابئة المندائيين، والتي عاشت مع المندائيين في جنوب العراق وكتبت عن طقوسهم ومعتقداتهم. النظرية الثانية اللي هي نظرية الأصل الشرقي للمندائيين، فتقول بأن أصلهم ينحصر بين بلاد فارس ووادي الرافدين، ورواد هذه النظرية قليلين جدا، لكنهم الآن يزدادون مع الزمن، وهناك مؤشرات للمقارنة بين المندائية والديانة البابلية أو الديانة الزرادشتية. في هذه النظرية. الحقيقة وجهة نظري تختلف أنا عن النظريتين، يعني إذا صح التعبير، أو التوجهين هذول. أنا أعتقد أن المندائين لم يهاجروا من فلسطين أو الأردن إلى وادي الرافدين، وليسوا هم بقايا من بقايا الديانات الفارسية أو الرافدينية. أنا أعتقد أن المندائين هم شعب من شعوب وادي الرافدين اسمهم الناصورائيين، وهم يقولون أن الناصورائية أو الناصورائيين هم الطبقة الدينية القديمة جدا، بل أن هناك إشارات واضحة في كتاب الجنزة ربه بأن الناصورائية هو الاسم القديم للمندائية، وهذا هو الصحيح.
هم نزحوا من فلسطين إلى حد حران شمال العراق أو الآن في تركيا أو شمال العراق، ثم جاءوا إلى مدينة مندلي بعد ذلك من مندلي لظروف المعيشية على أغلب الاحتمالات والتقديرات. ظروف المعيشية هي اللي دعت إلى أنه ينزحون من مدينة مندلي ويتواصلون بالمسير إلى حد وجود المياه اللي وجدوها في الطيب. طيب ماثة، اسمها مدينة طيب ماثة، يعني مدينة الطيب. ويقال أنه مدينة الطيب سابقا لجودة ما بها من المياه ووفرتها وجودة الطعام والأكل بها سميت الطيب، أطياب الأكل بها يعني.
يتكون المجتمع العراقي من فسيفساء من قوميات وأعراق ومذاهب، مكونا مجتمعا تملأه الثقافات والألوان الجميلة المتنوعة.
من الواضح تماما في عملنا منذ اللحظة الأولى اللي اشتغلتنا بها أهمية التنوع بالنسبة للعراق. التنوع بالنسبة للعراق هو يرتكز على فكرة أن التنوع ثروة دائمة لا تنضب مثل النفط ولا تجف مثل المياه. احنا معروفين تاريخيا بوصفنا بلاد ما بين النهرين، وعرفنا أيضا بوصفنا بلد غني بسبب ريع النفط، لكن هناك نهر رابع. إذا اعتبرنا النفط هو النهر الثالث بعد دجلة والفرات، هناك نهر رابع ثروته دائمة هو التنوع. التنوع بالنسبة لنا ثروة وخزين للأجيال المقبلة. يعني على سبيل المثال المندائيين بالنسبة للعراق يمثلون ثقافة ألفية، هم ليسوا مجرد أقلية تعيش في مكان أو بقعة محددة ويجب أن نحافظ عليهم. هؤلاء جماعة صمدت طوال القرون وحافظت لنا على شكل من أشكال الثقافة الآرامية من دون أن تختفي مثل هذه الثقافة. وجود مثل هذه الجماعة وبقائها طوال هذا القرن هو معجزة. هاي المعجزة اللي أنا أسميها مياه الحياة ما ممكن احنا نفرط بها خلال سنوات.
استوطن الصابئات المندائيون جنوب العراق منذ القدم. استقر ثقلهم الأكبر في مدينة العمارة مركز محافظة ميسان وباقي أقضيتها، وبالأخص الأهوار وأطراف الأهوار، لأهمية الحياة بالقرب من الماء الجاري لكل مندائي، وذلك لاعتبارات دينية بالدرجة الأولى.
احنا بالعمارة صراحة خلينا نحكيها بشكل طبيعي جدا. قبل جماعتنا في الأهوار ما يسكنون بالهور، يعني أكثر ناسنا الصابئة حتى لو يسكن بالهور فهو لازم يمتهن مهنة الحدادة أو النجار، يسوون بلام ويسوون المنجل والشلبة والفالة والمرواح لسبب معيشتهم بهاي المنطقة بالمناطق الريفية. الصبي دائما يفكر بعقله يشتغل بيده، يفكر بعقله ويشتغل بيده لسبب مثلا يكون ذكي، لسبب مثل ما موجودين ايضا من اخوتنا المسلمين كثيرين من النحاتين والفنانين، فهذول يمتهنون هاي المهنه لانه حرفه يدويه، يحاول دائما يشغل عقله بايده، ولذلك مبدعين. تلقي فنانين، تلقى صياغه، تلقى الحداده، النجاره. بالحداده يشتغلون شغلات إلا معمل يلا يشتغلها مثلا.
كلمة الصابئة مشتقة من الجذر صبغ، والذي يعني باللغة المندائية اصطبغ، غطى أو غطس في الماء، وهي من أهم شعائرهم الدينية، وبذلك يكون معنى الصابئة أي المصطبغين بنور الحق والتوحيد والإيمان. يعتبر الماء الجاري في الديانة المندائية أحد أهم مقومات هذه الديانة، لأهمية الماء الجاري في أداء الطقوس والشعائر الدينية. فقبل أغلب الطقوس الصابئية يتوجب على الفرد أن يغتسل في الماء مما يسمى بالطماشة، وقد ورد مفهوم الاغتسال والصباغة في العديد من النصوص المسمارية، وهو دليل على تأثر الأديان العراقية زمان الحضارات الأكدية والبابلية والسومرية والآشورية بالديانة المندائية، وأحد الأدلة القاطعة على كون الديانة المندائية أقدم الأديان التوحيدية.
هو كله على الماء احنا عندنا المي هو الحياة، ولذلك نسميه مية هي الماء الحي أو ماء الحياة. يعني بدون الماء يموت كل شيء، وهو جعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي في القرآن مثل ما تعرفون، لكنه ما يقدر يعيش الإنسان بدون مي، فلذلك تشوفه تعميده طقوسه شيء يريد يسوي، يعني أكثر من صلاة أو طقوس دينية أو أكل أو شرب. ترى هسه أكثر الناس قامت تاكل من الحنفية وكذا، ناسنا هسه البسطاء، قبل ماكو إنسان كلها مربية وكلها تاكل من الشط.
تنوع المجتمع العراقي كان أحد شواخص هذا المجتمع المتآلف، لولا أن أجندات أطراف إقليمية ودولية لم يعجبها ذلك التآلف، فشرعت على تفتيت هذا المجتمع بشتى الطرق. خسر العراق في منتصف القرن الماضي إحدى أهم مكوناته القديمة، وهم اليهود، حيث اضطر يهود العراق إلى ترك موطنهم بسبب سياسات دول عظمى وجدت مصلحتها في إخلاء العراق من اليهود. بعد سقوط نظام صدام حسين في عام 2003 شهد العراق موجة من العنف المدعوم من وراء الحدود للنيل من العراق والعراقيين.
بعد 2003 بعد الاحتلال الأمريكي وموجة العنف العشوائي والمجنون بدينا نفقد هذه الثروة. الإيزيديين كذلك، مثل ما المندائيين يمثلون ثقافة ألفية ومرجعيتهم الدينية هنا في العراق، يعني رشمة ستار جبار ورئيس الطائفة المندائية في العراق والعالم، مرجعية الدينية المندائيين هي في العراق، والمرجعية الدينية للإيزيديين كذلك هي موجودة أيضا في العراق، فهؤلاء أيضا يمثلون ثقافة ألفية بالنسبة لنا تمثل ثروة دائمة لا تنضب. كذلك حينما نتحدث عن أقليات أخرى، الكلدان، مرجعية الكلدان العالمية في العراق، هذا أيضا رأس مال حضاري بالنسبة للعراق، مثلما مرجعية النجف وكربلاء هي تمثل مرجعية عالمية لكل شيعة العالم.
عند الاطلاع على معظم الأديان وخاصة الأديان الإبراهيمية نجد الكثير من المفاهيم المشتركة فيما بينها، فهل نجد مثل هذه المشتركات بين هذه الأديان والديانة المندائية؟
كثير. مثلا أجي أحكي لك أول مرة بكتابنا الكنزي يقول باسم الحي العظيم إن عكازتكم يوم الحساب أعمالكم التي عليها تتوكؤون فانظروا إلى ماذا تستندون، والحي المزكي. مقابلها في يعني مقابل هذه الآية أو البوثة في اللغة العربية في القرآن يقول بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل اعملوا فسيرى الله عملكم ورسوله والمؤمنون. صدق الله العظيم. هذه يأكد رب العالمين في كل الأديان على العمل. اعمل، أنا أريدك تعمل، خلقتك حتى تعمل، تعبد وتعمل. العمل يجب أن يكون بإتقان، يعني عملك ما تأثر به على أحد، عمل يرضى به الله، خلينا نقول بهالطريقة.
العمل إذن هو أحد القواسم المشتركة بين الأديان الإبراهيمية، ورد ذكره 359 مرة في القرآن الكريم و47 مرة في الإنجيل، ومثلها تقريبا في التوراة. مفردة العمل تتماهى مع مفردات الخلق والإنتاج والصناعة والتنمية والتطور، والتي تصب جميعا في خدمة الجمال والأمن والسلام واستمرار الحياة التي مصدرها يردنا أو الماء الحي، أو كما يرددها العريس الصابئي ليلة زفافه: صغير أنا بين الملائكة اللاثريين، طفل أنا بين النورانيين، ومع ذلك فقد أصبحت عظيما، ونفسي كبرت لأني شربت الماء من ثغر الفرات.
Thank you, Barbara. But don't worry, because we're going to watch another film in a minute. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I mean, it was a fascinating insight and quite a different one to the one that most of the things I think we hear about Iraq. So thank you to Muayyad, and I hope that will generate some interesting discussion later. Now we've had a chance to celebrate the work of two individual authors and consider why their work and their rights might be important. We'll continue our round-the-world trip. And hear from authors around the world who we have actually asked to talk about their rights and the work they do to protect them. Work which is undertaken by initiatives such as the International Authors Forum, which is a collection of national associations of authors in different countries, and the IAF brings them together. The International Authors Forum does this work on an international basis and has had at its helm Maureen Duffy, who is here tonight, and she will explain more about IAF's work later and the importance of authors' rights as the final speaker, although I have to apologise to Maureen because I did tell her she would be the first speaker. Maureen is a large part of the reason that this event has come about, and another author whose service we should celebrate both as an author and to her fellow authors worldwide. She graduated from King's in English in 1956 and is a writer who has nearly 40 published works of fiction, non-fiction, biography, plays and poetry to her name. Her archive is held here at King's, and thanks go to the Centre for Life Writing Research, and in particular to Professor Claire Brandt, who is here tonight, the Centre's co-director, for supporting ongoing work on Maureen's archive and this event. Thanks also to the Authors Licensing and Collecting Society for their sponsorship, and to FUIS, the Writers' Union of Italy, as well, of course, to all our speakers, contributors, and the Arts and Humanities Research Institute team at King's, who've made a great effort to make this event happen. So, on to the serious bit. Our next postcard comes from ANFASA, the Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association of South Africa, if that isn't too much of a mouthful. ANFASA was the first organisation which officially joined the International Authors Forum and have made this film especially for tonight, getting together a panel of writers to discuss the work that the organisation does and think about the role that authors play in South Africa and why that work is necessary. So Barbara, if you could dim the lights, over to ANFASA.
Hello everyone, it's wonderful to be here in front of this marvellous table full of food and surrounded by such good people and interesting people, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm Monica. I was the founder of the Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association of ANFASA, and it's ANFASA that's been given the opportunity to showcase us, in a sense, to people outside this country, to say something about ourselves and what we do, our writing, and the association itself, and how useful authors' associations can be. But I'm not going to waste your time talking about it. I'm going to let you talk. So I'd like to introduce everybody who's sitting around this table. When ANFASA was given this opportunity, we immediately contacted our good friends, the Right Associates, represented here by Rax Seakwa, to help us put this occasion together. So thank you, Rux, for being our partner in this, and we'll speak to you again just now. Sindiwe Magona is a South African. We're all South African authors sitting here, but I'd like to introduce you to Sindiwe, to Lebo Mashire, to Lisa Combrink, to Andries Oliphant. We're all going to sit around and talk while we help ourselves to some of this delicious-looking food. Rux, over to you.
Yeah, and I think perhaps it's proper to just put in an apology for Professor Kirape Zephositsile, our National Poet Laureate. He really was committed to come here, but he was not very well. Last night he called, so he won't be able to come, but he's here with us in spirit. As writers, our place in the society, and also our status and the respect of writers in the South African situation and society, but particularly around what we do as writers. We write, we have listenership, readership. When we talk about reading, are we only talking about books? Is social media, does it have a place in our today's society in terms of encouraging and promoting and growing this culture of reading? But also our status and our place in society referring to are we respected enough? Do we get, as writers, as authors, in different genres, poets, storytellers, novelists, do we get the same respect, not only in terms of, from the moral point of view, but financially, the same way as other artists, especially musicians? So those are some of the points we would want to look at.
To contextualize the context we are in now, if you go back to the years prior to the present, the role South African writers played in bringing to the attention to the world of the problems in our country, writers like Nadine Gordimer, like Breiten Breitenbach, Andre Brink, and all the exiled writers like Lewis and Corsi and others, making the world aware of crisis here in South Africa, and the role writers played within the country over the decades to articulate the crisis in our society. And we had expected that with the transition from apartheid to democracy, that the rights of the citizens, all their rights, their human rights, their artistic rights, all these are enshrined in the Constitution, that these would be upheld and developed. At the current juncture, we are going through a process where there's legislation being processed through Parliament affecting the economic status and economic rights of artists. And there are ideas which suggest that the work of writers should be distributed and made accessible to everyone without any royalties. That is a marker of the extent to which the labor and the intellectual rights of artists are undermined. Now this will continue if artists are not organized the way in which that non-fiction authors are organized in Anfasa. We need a huge writers' organization which covers all the art forms, non-fiction, fiction, poetry, theater writing, and narrative writing.
Where there has been freedom of expression, we only have ourselves to blame as writers for being in that position where we are right now. A strong state and a strong government can only be built on a strong civil society. And the question is, have we as writers, and with our failure to build strong national organizations, I have found in my recent experience that more and more young people are interested in books and are interested in writing. And there is this absolute hunger for knowledge, which I last saw in the mid-90s, early and mid-90s. So maybe there's a way in which society renews itself ever so often. And I think the time is now for us to catch that moment in its making and to take it somewhere. And I think that's why the work Monica has been doing has been crucial. She's put the paving stones in place. And now we all have to take it from there and build it further.
The conversation is making the gears in my brain work in so many different directions. I guess I belong to a wave of writers who emerged post-democracy. And I think the unexpected nature of that wave is that it has included a lot of women, a lot of Black women, particularly in poetry. I mean, to the extent that I think that the poets who are really shaping the landscape of this art form right now, the ones who are pivotal and taking it in new directions, it's Black women. Which is not necessarily being acknowledged in many ways by the literary mainstream, which, I mean, is still controlled very much by white people and has its own kind of hierarchy. But when I go to college campuses or when I go to poetry sessions, any major city in South Africa, that you'll find young people who are engaged in this art form and who are taking it to places that are so imaginative and unexpected. I mean, now you've got young poets who are integrating audio visuals into their poetry, who are taking visuals that they're finding online on the internet, using that as part of their performance art. And it's no one is really examining the kind of multidisciplinary nature of this new poetry, It's still perceived as underground, even though the numbers are not underground, I don't think that my existence would be possible in any other country. And that's a very interesting part of this refashioning of this national identity, is that the role of artists has become, in as much as it was essential to the dismantling of apartheid, it's also become essential to the reimagining of what South Africa can be, in spite of the darkness that we've been going through.
I have children writing.
Yes.
Do I find a publisher? I have women writing about abuse. Do I find a publisher? Publishers, and rightly so perhaps, they're a business. And so they want this kind of book. If you're going to write stories about how I was touched by my mother's boyfriend when I was 4 or 6, that kind of thing, people are writing their stories. We have to find a way of getting them out
into the world.
To affirm the people who write the stories, but also to raise awareness among others, around that people can write their stories.
Because this too is our story.
So let me say something about academic and non-fiction authors. ANFASA was set up as an organization of academic and non-fiction authors. There were reasons for this, because it's a rights-based organization, and the rights of academic and non-fiction authors are most often unduly exploited without permission, more than those of fiction authors. Nonetheless, our programs are relevant for authors of all kinds. And although we're not changing our name, we do welcome into membership all authors. Not just academic and non-fiction authors.
What would you want to input in this discussion around this pivotal role of copyright in terms of advancing the art of writing, and also the kind of naivety and something that we really don't take that seriously as South Africans, particularly writers. The role of collective societies, role of Anfasa and other stuff like that.
You know, Rox and everybody, I sometimes think that at the heart of all this lies a lack of conscientization. And I use this word quite often. I say that our purpose is to conscientize authors and to enable them to feel that they are a professional in a sense, you know. I also talk about the professionalization of writing. That means to, what I mean by that is to regard it as a profession. What do you do for a living? I'm a writer. And everything that you say, that you have said, is part of this conscientization. Where are we in the world? What are our rights? What does the law give us in terms of our rights? What is a collecting society? What do I gain from a collecting society? There's such a lack of knowledge about the context in which writing takes place. And one of the things, Anfasa as an organization has a lot of objectives. But for me personally, one of the greatest objectives, the strongest objectives is to conscientize authors and to make them recognize what it means to be an author in a society such as that. What is ideology? What am I doing it for? Do I earn a living from this? If I don't, why don't I earn a living from this? And so on. Have I said things that can spur other people to respond to? Because I'm sure you're all looking, I can see that, you know, what I'm saying has hit the spot with a lot of people around the table. Others will have something to say about that. All I want to say in closing from my side is thank you so much for coming along and talking, and how stimulating it's been. We're all thinking like crazy and getting ideas. We're conscientizing ourselves, and now we have to take it further and conscientize everybody else. So over to you all to carry on in the last few seconds we have.
Yeah, may I? I can respond only with a poem. Yes. A very short poem.
Please do that.
Which goes like this. Do words die? Are letters dead? Conversations unconsummated? Talks disrupted and dismissed? Dialogue severed? Love left dismembered, its throat cut. Or scrolls rolled up, poems unread, centuries of papyrus unsaid, left to decay and rot. But in this silence, void of words, sapped of love, still we beat our drum.
Fike kaya kumama ko jaga wiyanga tiso tinina Fike kaya Evantwane niba kubu
Well, thank you to Anfasa. I hope they'll be able to see the footage of this event so they'll know that they were included. And I know that they made the film at my request, but they plan to use it in lots of other contexts. So I wish them well with their film. And our next postcard, staying on the same continent, comes from the president of the Sudanese Writers' Union, Professor Ahmed El Safi. The Sudanese Writers' Union joined IAF in 2012, but was then banned by the Ministry of Culture in Sudan in 2013, not for the first time in its history. IAF members came together in strong support of the union's reinstatement, which has, thankfully, now happened. So over to Sudan.
Dear participants in the Festival of the Arts and Humanities Research Institute at King's College, London. This is a postcard from the Sudanese Writers' Union conveying a salute message to you and the word of gratitude to the International Authors Forum and to writers everywhere. The Sudanese Writers' Union is a non-governmental, non-profit cultural group registered in 1985 under the Ministry of Culture, Sudan. The Sudanese Writers' Union is governed by a General Assembly and a democratically elected 9-member executive committee and a 30-member council of advisors. The Sudanese Writers' Union represents writers in creative arts and applied and social sciences and holds partnerships with unions and associations of musicians, graphic, theatrical, and visual artists. Its membership is currently over 500 and is steadily growing. Branches are spreading around the globe to represent the Sudanese writers in diaspora. The Sudanese Writers' Union acknowledges that Sudan is a blend of different ethnicities, cultures, religions, and languages, and that several cultures intermingled and interacted to forge its unique present cultural reality, and that this diversity and plurality should be judiciously utilized to set the basis of enlightened cultural policy and be cementing elements of sustainable peace, stability, and national unity rather than seeds of division and war. The Sudanese Writers' Union works to unite the Sudanese writers and takes care of their creative abilities and endeavors to promote their economic, social, and health well-being and improves the environment under which they write and work. It has always been steadfast in defending the right of writers to be free and in assuring the freedom of all types of expression, of cultural expression in the light of basic human rights, literature, liberties, and constitutional rights. The Sudanese Writers' Union works to align the forces of all writers towards common understanding of the worth of writing and the progressive role of writers irrespective of ethnic, religious, cultural, and linguistic diversity, political and ideological beliefs and affiliations, and irrespective of the different schools of creative writing. Because of these same values that the Sudanese Writers' Union stands for, it has been the target of aggression by the state, though it is non-political and non-partisan. On the 29th of January 2015, the Sudanese Writers' Union was dissolved and its cultural activities banned with a 1.5-line message issued by the Ministry of Culture under which it is registered. To bring back the Sudanese Writers' Union to its rightful legal status took 22 months of litigation. On December 1st, 2016, the Administrative Appeals Court ruled out that the decision of the Ministry of Culture was unlawful and ordered the immediate return of the Sudanese Writers' Union to its previous legal status. The Ministry of Culture was far from being magnanimous. It appealed to the Sudan Supreme Court, which upheld the decision of the Administrative Appeals Court. Thanks to the judiciary system, the Sudanese Writers' Union is now functioning normally. However, this last ban was not the first. The Sudanese Writers' Union was among the first victims of aggression by the state in 1989. Then It was not only banned, but its assets confiscated and venue reallocated to one of the ruling regime cronies. In 2006, the Sudanese Writers Union was reinstated after 16 years of inactivity, thanks to the Comprehensive Peace Accord of 2005. At this historic juncture, the Sudanese Writers Union would like to thank all civil society organizations, the press and friends, inland and abroad, who showed concern and solidarity and denounced the unlawful and unjustified bans. We would like to thank the International Authors Forum for supporting the Sudanese Writers Union during its last predicament and for maintaining its membership and initiating a barrage of messages of support from its members that were addressed to the Sudan embassies in their respective countries. The Sudanese Writers Union would like to assure its members and friends that it would continue to contribute to the establishment and strengthening of a culture that is built on religious and political tolerance, a culture that shuns physical and cultural violence, a culture that supports mutual respect and maintains an atmosphere that leads to peaceful interaction between all factions of society, and would continue to pursue all peaceful means to maintain the legal status that the Sudanese Writers Union rightfully deserves. We would prevail and we would triumph over all sorts of aggression and intimidation. Thank you for your support and for your time. Ahmed Al-Safi, President, Sudanese Writers Union.
Well, thank you. Thanks to the Sudanese Writers Union. When a Writers Union is banned by its own Ministry of Culture, I think the writers from Sudan are ones we really need to listen to and support. And now I'd like to invite our panel of live speakers who come from Solomon Islands, from Israel, from Italy, and from the UK. Maureen Duffy to take their seats. And after their presentations, I hope we'll have time for some discussion and questions from you. So, Farad, if you're going to speak from here, aren't you? Yeah. So, well, I was going to quickly introduce you. We're going to hear from a region which is not yet officially part of the International Authors Forum because countries need to join via their authors' organisations. So actually what Vered is working on is forming a union of writers and other authors, which she'll talk more about. Vered is a social entrepreneur, a publicist, a female activist, and founder of the initiative Novel Rights, about which she will tell us more, as well as the work she is doing to resolve divisions in the Middle East, working with writers from countries within the region. Thank you, Vered.
Thank you. Just need to put my presentation. So my speech will be a little bit different because I'm taking you into a journey to learn a little bit about inside of Israel and our diversity, and I want to speak more about literature as I wrote, literature is a bridge between cultures and the power of diversity. So, my name is Vered Cohen Barzilai, and before I introduce myself, I want to interact a little bit, and we are a small group, so we can make this conversation. And I wish to ask you to look at me and tell me, in your opinion, who do you think am I? There is some point. You can guess my gender, I hope. My race, my religion, and please feel free to share your thoughts. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a human. More thoughts? Oh, something? Yeah? Female? Great. Something more? Education, beliefs, my home? Okay. So imagine, I imagine that you have some answers in your head, and probably most of the answer I mean that you thought about are based on stereotypes, a combination of prejudice, cultural, social, and geographical knowledge. The information that each and every one of you collected in your head on me help you to label me and translate it to the way you feel about me through feelings of love and hate, like Facebook, like or disliking me. Stereotype may vary between cultures and countries. Some of you sitting here may have made assumptions about my thoughts, action, and views over Palestinians because I came from Israel. My geographical origin immediately connects me to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I may have been already labeled as pro-Israeli, sorry, is it? Okay, Israeli or pro-Palestinian before I even opened my mouth to communicate my views. In my country, Israel, I'll also be judged by the color of my skin. While people can hide or change their religion, citizenship, geographical location, and beliefs, they cannot hide the color of the skin. In Israel, my color indicates that I have Mizrahi roots. Mizrahis are Jewish, descended from the local Jewish community of the Islamic countries in the Middle East and North Africa, from biblical times to modern era. To simplify this, my roots are in Iraq and Turkey. My father was born in Basra, Iraq. His mother language was Arabic, or Arabic Iraqi, to be more precise. My mother family came from Turkey and spoke Spanish Jewish. In Israel, for many years, Mizrahi people suffered from discrimination. Their warm connection to Arab and Muslim in the Arab countries is reflected not only in the language they spoke, but in folklores, arts, food, etc. All that was considered inferior in the early years of the new country, and in many ways still is today. For Mizrahi people, the path to success was more difficult. In some period, almost impossible. Their tradition, the music and literature, even if existed, it was underground and was considered to be uncivilized and unsophisticated. Mizrahi people and their rich history were omitted from Israeli history books, from textbooks, and were, for the most part, non-existent even in pop culture, in movies and television. If a Mizrahi person was portrayed, as you can see here, it was as a gross stereotype, as someone ignorant and uncivilized. Entire generations were erased by a decision to make us Mizrahi people forget our history and our achievements. As a result, our Mizrahi roots led us to feel shame. As a child, I refused to speak or study Arabic. I refused to be associated in any way with Mizrahi origins. This behavior is very common among the second generation in Mizrahi people in Israel. Many people change their names or surnames. Surnames, yeah. So we will not be recognized as Mizrahi person or marked as belonging to the Mizrahi culture. But the color of my skin remained in my consciousness. I could disassociate myself from my Mizrahi origin culture, and intellectually, but I couldn't escape my skin color. And so, with regard to skin color, I searched for others with brown skin color as myself. I was attracted to black writers that guided me and helped me to understand the issue of skin color in the world. In one of her interviews, the Nobel Prize winner Toni Morrison said that the reason she wrote her phenomenal book Beloved was because she never read a novel with a young black woman as a heroine. If there's a book that you want to read but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it, she said. I haven't read a Hebrew book with a young Mizrahi woman as a heroine until very recently. Iris Elia Cohen is a Mizrahi novelist and poet. Iris, together with other female poets and writers such as Chaviva Pedaya, Amira Hess, Tzionit Fatal Cooperwasser, Adi Keisar, and male writers such as Sami Michael, Eli Amir, Almog Behar, Shlomi Chatuka, Roy Hassan, and many more, led a breakthrough in the Israeli literature and poetry. For the first time, they all told stories of the first and second generation of Mizrahi people. They expressed the tragedy of the previous generation, the pain, the memories of the families in the early homes, the violent exile from the Arab countries, and the rich heritage we all forced to forget. They also touch upon the issue of color. Well, in her first novel, Maktub, Iris described for the first time a forbidden love affair between a Mizrahi woman and a Palestinian gardener. This love affair was a metaphor of a process that started less than a decade ago among the second generation Mizrahi descendants. Slowly, they opened the wounds of their families, returned to the original names and surnames, the Oriental food, and the Jewish Arabic language. From a population of 126,000 Jews that lived in Iraq until 60 years ago, only 4 still living in the country. The Jewish community that had a major effect on Iraqi successful economy and culture disappeared forever. Thanks to Facebook, Israeli and Arabs were able to recommunicate. Even in countries such as Iran, Iraq, and Syria, that are considered enemies by both sides. Jewish and Arab can now share childhood memories or rediscover the roots of the families that got lost in the history books and in the current tragic political situation in the Middle East. Literature allows us to get to know people that we can physically meet, even from banned cultures and enemy countries. It helps us to get to know them better, live with them, feel their pain and successes, love them, understand them, and feel high levels of empathy toward them. In her famous TED lecture, The Danger of Single Story, the Nigerian writer Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie warned about the one point of view that we often find in our modern world. Unfortunately, we almost also find it in news and in literature. We are on the brink of a third world war. We talked about it earlier. Every day we experience expression of hate and ignorance. The level of violence increased in almost every place on earth. As a result, in many places in the world, people are demanding to exile foreigners because they dislike minorities and prefer the single national story point of view. The question is, why are people so threatened by minorities? Is it worth the next world war? Ironically, people make political choices in order to gain security and serenity for their homes and land. People are afraid because there are leaders that blame minorities and they can't imagine a peaceful world rich in diverse cultures. But those leaders, parties, and their action will eventually lead us to a horrible war. Albert Einstein is quoted as saying, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited while imagination embraces the entire world." Change always starts with imagination. If we can imagine, we can act and change. If we will be able to look at each other, not as a single story, but as stories told from a multiply angles, we will appreciate them better. We will stop being afraid. During the Second World War, leaders blamed minorities. In fact, they suggested and tried to mark them all and to nurture one single point of view, to make themselves great again. 70 million people died as a result. When the war ended, humanity almost extincted. Morality was in its lowest point. 4 years ago, a group of Mizrahi, Israeli, and Iraqi authors and professors met together for the first time in 60 years. In order to learn about each other, all members of each side of the group were taught to hate each other. They grew up with stories about the Jewish Israeli devil or the Muslim Arab devil. Those type of education put everyone at risk. And while we met, we had a wonderful experience, I can disclose the identity of those we met or show you movies about the meaningful experience out of fear of their safety and lives. Hate nurtures destructions and war. It endures every good seeds of morality and humanity. The more we learned about each other, the less we felt intimidated by each other. This is the only way to beat terror, the only way to break the cycle of hate, fear, and violence. Literature can create a similar effect on a massive group of people. It can beat ignorance, racism, fascism, Islamophobia, and Nazism. Literature can create, but where can we find literature that tells a different story? A story from a multiply of angles, a story that humanizes minorities and refugees so that people feel less intimidated, so they can imagine a culture-rich world that does not sacrifice geographical borders or physical walls more than the human race. Those books are rarely published. They are hardly distributed and at least not as widely as they should be. Only last year could Israeli readers read a book by Iraqi writers describing the situation in Iraq. Only this year could Iraqi readers be exposed to the story of Israeli Jewish Iraqi written by Israeli Mizrahi writer for the first time. Our world is heading toward a new era, toward a revolution that will change education, it will change our employment system, universities, and basically everything that we know today. Those changes are inevitable, but wars are not. We all must join together and bravely say, never again. And Maureen can join this. The future is in our hand. It is in our pens and keyboards. Only together we can write a different chapter to our world. As a resident of the Middle East and a proud Israeli Mizrahi person, I stand now in front of you and call all writers to join the International Writers Forum. The forum important work help authors secure and protect their writing rights, protect the creation, and make sure that literature will not disappear in the changes of the world now. I also call you to support us in the first step that we are now doing and to create a Middle East Writers Forum. Our region has experienced too many conflicts and wars, unfortunately. Too many innocent people have lost their lives. I think that you will all agree with me that it is time that we will present a different story about friendship, peace, and humanity. Thank you.
Very much, Vered. And we hope that the relationship between your network and the International Authors Forum only grows from here. So next we'll go to the Solomon Islands, a collection of islands east of Papua New Guinea, about as far as the UK, far from the UK as we can get. And I'd like to introduce Christina Cooper, who works in Geneva at the United Nations for her mission, the mission of the Solomon Islands, and who I met at the World Intellectual Property Organization. She is working on engaging Solomon Islands with the work of the United Nations and exploring the relevance of global treaties, including copyright treaties, and intergovernmental politics to her country, now that, thanks, or maybe not thanks, but to technology, we are brought closer together as a world. And the Solomon Islands may not be as remote as it once was. Christina is here to tell us about the work of the Solomon Islands Creative Writers Association and the challenges faced by such a small community of authors who are largely self-taught in terms of publishing and production and don't benefit from the developed industries most of us are familiar with. At the end of her presentation, we're also going to watch a film, a documentary made by a French and Solomon Island production company collaboration called The Test. So I think Christina's going to speak from her seat. Is that right, Christina?
Yes.
Great. Okay, and I'll get your presentation up.
Thank you, Katie.
That's okay.
So if I could just grab the...
Oh, you need the thing.
Okay. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Solomon... Sorry.
Is this switch? Oh, the microphone's switched on. Can you hear us
Yes.
to the back there?
Yeah, I think you have to speak close into them to get the recording, apparently.
All right, so good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Solomon Islands Creative Writers Association, I have the privilege of saying thank you very much to King's College, the International Authors Forum, the esteemed Maureen Duffy, Katie Webb, and Barbara Haynes, who have introduced me to their organization and have made it possible for my participation this evening. So let me start without further ado. Let me just get to what my presentation will be covering this evening. As outlined, you see, I would like to speak briefly about the Solomon Islands Creative Writers Association and to highlight one of their publication that was published in 2016 titled Talemaut. Now, Talemaut means say it or speak it. Talemaut is about Solomon's stories of peace and conflict. It is related to the ethnic tension and crisis that took place in Solomon Islands in 2002. Now, it's a ethnic tension that stemmed from plantation workers who were relocated from one part of the Solomon Islands to another part of the Solomon Islands. And it came to a time when the plantation workers would have to go back to their island province, but they did not want to go. They have intermarried, they have settled on the land. And so the landowners wanted them to leave, but they were not able to go back to their own island province. And so there was this tension between the two of them. Now, some of the writers are from these island provinces, and I would like to share with you two personal stories. One from the current president, Jasmine, and the secretary of the association, Regina. Now, and like Katie said, we will watch 10 minutes or so of a film titled The Test. Now, as you can see here, Solomon Islands is an archipelago of islands scattered across in the South Pacific Ocean, lying 3 hours northeast of Australia. And the population is about 600,000. And today, we still speak between 60 to 70 languages, indigenous dialects. Now, in Katie's picture of where the panel represents this evening, you couldn't even see Solomon Islands. And so hopefully this gives you a better picture of what those dirt or dot marks on your map look like. Okay, so Jasmine, the president, is from, sorry, how do I use this thing? So Jasmine is from this part of Solomon Islands, and it's called Choiseul. It's the western province of Solomon Islands. And she's part, this Guadalcanal, this is the central province. And the ethnic tension is between people from Guadalcanal and Malaita province, these two different island groups here. Now, Regina is also from the western province and part Guadalcanal. And so the ethnic tension basically was more directly between groups of people. Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Between two groups of people from these groups of islands. And so those of us who were not from either of these islands didn't quite feel the way that people from these two groups of islands felt during that period. Between 2002 up until, I guess, 2005, when it started to calm down and life started to return back to normal. Okay, so a little bit about the Solomon Islands Creative Writers Association. It was established in 1983 as an avenue to recognize and encourage interest of amateur writers, and it continues to play an important role in capturing Solomon Islands history through literature written by Solomon Islanders. We have not written our own history, and so now we are writing it through our own stories. Now, with such a small number of membership, not every writer actually belongs to this association, and they are writers who do not publish their poems or their stories because maybe our culture is more oratory than literature-based, I guess. And the works of Jasmine and Regina, they in their different capacities have highlighted this association both in country and in the region. Now, the association meets on a monthly basis, and they have decided to do this because most of the speakers are spread across the country, and so sometimes it's difficult to have all the members be present for meetings, and so they've just decided to have it on a monthly basis. And the association runs its business from membership fees, funding, and revenues received from their publications. In 2013, the association started looking at collecting stories toward an annual publication. Now, it's a small association, very small, very few writers, and these writers are amateur writers, so they're not able to put together a lot of writings to make up a publication. It's a community effort. Most of the writers don't have individual works published on their own, and it's very difficult and expensive to do that. And sorry, where am I? Yes. So this is one of their publications that had come out in 2013, and the stories are from the time during the tension, and their expressions of the economical, social, and political situation during those periods. To create this work, they've had to do 3 months of training. It started off just like a training session to help these amateur writers learn how to do basic writing, poetry, and so forth. And then it turned into a collection of work that they were able to put together to do this publication. And it was one of their first publications, so it's a communal project. And they had to do a lot of revisioning, a lot of draft had to be reviewed, and this is how they learned through this time to put this publication out. And also, without the support of the UNDP CPAD's project and the British High Commission in Solomon Islands, it would not have been possible for them to find funding to do this first publication. And in 2016, the second edition came out, which was published by the University of the South Pacific. And so their writing now adds to the collection that is with the regional university. Now, who is Jasmine? Jasmine Navalawale Fair is the current president. Now, she's not well known as Maureen, but in the Solomon Islands, Jasmine represents a role model for our young writers. One of her short stories titled Brother, We Are Caught in a Trap expresses the situation at the time where Jasmine, being half part from the western part of the Solomon Islands and central Solomon Islands, had grown up with family who were also part from the other group who were also in conflict with the parties from central Solomon Islands. And so at one point, the families had to choose who they were going to be with. So Jasmine's cousin went off with the other party while Jasmine and her family siblings stayed with one party. And her cousin decided to join the fighters, and he died during that time. So Jasmine, most of her writings are about her personal experiences during this time. Now, Jasmine's childhood was not an easy one. She was an orphan also, and to escape the realities of life, she, like her father, wrote stories and poems as a way of self-expressing. And she paid her way through high school, doing odd jobs, and finally, with scholarship, she was able to receive her arts degree in secondary education in English literature from the Pacific Adventist University based in Papua New Guinea. Now, Jasmine says, "It's not who I am today that matters most, but the journey to getting here is what I value most." A few weeks ago, as I was preparing to come to this event, I was chatting with Regina over the email, Facebook, to hear more about her story. Now, Regina, she mostly spoke about her interest in filmmaking, and she preferred script writing because she says she's too lazy to work on the details of, when writing a story. So she preferred to do script writing. And I did not realize that six days ago, Regina won the award for Best Female Lead Role in a film titled Blackbird at the Sydney Indie Film Festival 2017. This is a short film directed by a Solomon Island descendant from the sugarcane slaves, who is part Australian and part Solomon. Her name is Amy Batalibasi. And so Regina was the lead female in that film. Now Regina continues to work with UNDP Peace Building Fund as a youth empowerment and engagement officer. And she does freelance work writing for local magazines and newspapers in Solomon Islands. In 2014, Regina created her own film group. She called it Honiara Filmmakers Club. She has a twin sister, so the two of them share this love for filmmaking, and so they created this club to help foster their interest and also to help other aspiring filmmakers or scriptwriters in Solomon Islands. She directed a 21-minute film titled Broken Wind Chime, which was produced by the local film producer Sukwadi Media, who also produced the film that we will watch at the end of my presentation. And she dedicated this film to victims of a flash flood that took place in Honiara, Solomon Islands in 2014. Now, Regina says that her love for filmmaking started from when she used to borrow films from a local video rental shop. And during the ethnic tension, the little shop got burnt down. And so Regina says she still remembers this shop and she loves it so much. And so that's where her love for film came from. Now, both Regina and Jasmine says that the tough experiences that they've been through during childhood and up until their recent years, it's something that has given them how they create stories from real emotions and real characters. Now, the Solomon Islands Creative Writers Association is a very small association, and so they have quite a few challenges. Some of their challenges may just be relevant to the fact that they're small, they're unknown, and it's very difficult to have consistency in their program. Apart from that, they need a lot of technical training, they need exposure, they need funding to help them manage and maintain their activities. And I would just like to summarize, yes, like I've just said. So basically, that's what the Solomon Islands Creative Writers Association is, and thank you so much for the opportunity to introduce them to you today. Now, the short film, The Test, is about a young boy who, in a village where he had to transition from boyhood to manhood by having to go out and fish in a traditional canoe and catch his first bonito. This activity had died down probably more than 10 years ago, and now they're trying to revive it, and so they're trying to bring it back and have this activity done again as a community. There are families who probably have done it themselves in their own individual way, but now they're trying to bring it back so that the whole island can actually take part in this activity for all the children in that community or that island. So I hand it back to Katie to take it from here to show the film.
I was just wondering if, in the interests of time, it might be best to put the film on at the end, and we can leave it running, I think, because we don't have to be out of here at a particular time, but we do have 2 more speakers to hear, and I'm aware that the time is running on.
Yes, I think it would be fair to.
Would that be okay, Christina? Okay, and for those of you who want to, you can watch. Well, I'd recommend watching the film. It's brilliant. But I'd like to just complete our journey with our 2 final speakers from Italy. Mm-hmm. We have Ida Boucher, who represents FUIS, the Writers' Union of Italy. She will explain the work and activities that the Writers' Union of Italy does. Although it's a relatively recently established Writers' Union, it's one of the most active members of the International Authors Forum, and of course it's closest to us here. One of IAF's aims is to provide support to authors in countries who might not have representative bodies, but who can follow models around the world and tackle common challenges together by connecting with fellow authors and their own representative bodies in different countries. So although it is relatively new, I think FUIS is fully engaged with the work of defending authors' rights and provides a model service for authors, which Ida will explain.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ida.
Well, my name is Ida Baucia. I am here to represent FUIS, Federazione Unitaria Italiana Scrittori, which is the most important association of writers and authors in Italy today. We are really honored to have been invited in this prestigious college and to be here. FUIS is a federation of trade associations representing authors. It was founded by the 3 main Italian trade associations in 2009, but each trade union is much older. It is now managed by 2 of them. The theme of this event is World Service in the context of authors all over the world. Well, the main goal of FUIS is to give good services to authors of all categories, in order to help them to safeguard their rights in human, moral, and economic fields. Article 27 of the Declaration of Human Rights says that everyone has the right to the protection of the moral and material interests resulting from any scientific, literary, or artistic productions of which he is the author. Protecting intellectual property is a duty for any nation which wishes to safeguard the freedom of expressions and cultural diversity. As you know, authors are the weakest link in the chain of culture, even if there is no culture without authors. They have to face attacks from publishers who take advantage from their dominant positions, from users who aim to use the works without paying them any rights. Especially in our global society, where people want to access the works for free, thanks to the new technologies. When an author creates a work, he acts not only for himself, but for the entire community. He must feel free to create, to be independent. This is his job. And as for every job, he has to be remunerated when his work is used by others. This is the core of copyright. A recent survey on the economic situation of writers carried out by FUIS last year highlighted that 3.6% of Italian writers only get remuneration for their profession that allows them to live of their work. Many still believe that writing is only leisure. FUI's main goal are to help authors to have their rights recognized and to promote them in every field of expression. With this purpose, FUIS communicates with public and private bodies to improve laws and rules in favor of authors. It watches for the authors to get their rights, hoping they can live of their intellectual work. If they are free, on the economic point of view, they are free to create without any external obligations. It does any effort to raise public awareness on the fact that there is no art without remuneration to the author. It tries to educate authors about their rights and how to protect themselves. It helps authors to promote themselves and their works. It assists them with the presentation of their works, projections, meetings, festivals, surveys, readings, exhibitions concerning the various expressions of art. It helps authors concretely when they are in a difficult situation. It organizes conferences, study groups, and further researches. It arranges training courses for professional writers and for the creation of artistic production. It gives free consultancy to authors, makes suggestions for the first legal guidelines, offering mediation in case of legal disputes, gives advices on contracts, and so on. FUIS aims to bring Italian authors' voice abroad and also to collect any information from abroad. The exchange of opinions and information is fundamental for the spread of culture in the world, also for creating solidarity among authors worldwide. With this purpose, FUIS has joined IAF, where the authors' instances are represented internationally, sharing their initiatives. FUIS has shared with IAF the campaign for fair contracts, with the publication of 10 principles for fair contracts for authors, to educate authors about their rights as well to educate users. FUIS has recently been accepted inside WIPO, World International Property Organization, too, in order to follow the discussion on copyright worldwide directly. As you may know, WIPO is the Global Forum for Intellectual Property Services, Policy, Information, and Cooperation. It is a self-funding agency of the United Nations with 190 member states. Its mission is to lead the development of a balanced and effective international intellectual property system that enables innovation and creativity for the benefit of all. Finally, it might be of interest to you to know about one of the last initiatives that FUIS has launched for the first time in Italy. FUIS has assigned 2 writing residencies that allow young emerging writers to create or to complete a literary work. One residency is for Italian author and one is for a foreign writer. The residency consists of staying for 1 month at Castel di Lago, a nice medieval village in Umbria, in the center of Italy. There is also an economic allowance. 2 writers, an Italian one and one from abroad, were already selected and are now doing the residency. We are planning to double the residencies for the next year in order to have 2 scholarships for categories. If you need more details or information, please visit our website, which includes also an international section managed by Katie Webb, fois.it. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Ida. And so finally, we come to Maureen Duffy, whose work in service of writers all over the world is extensive, as is her writing. She co-founded the Authors Licensing and Collecting Society in 1977, a UK-based 90,000-strong membership organisation for writers, which last year paid over £30 million in royalties to writers for secondary uses of their work, such as photocopying and scanning. She has also served as president of the European Writers' Council, which, now based in Brussels, defends the rights of European writers and at the European Parliament, and was originally founded to bring together writers from East and West Europe after the Soviet Union had been dissolved. Most recently, she has been instrumental in setting up the International Authors Forum and representing authors' rights all over the world and the rights of authors all over the world. So Karen Gervitz, who is one of Maureen's fellow Afro-Ben scholars, Afro-Ben being another of her areas of expertise, described Maureen's work as rendering audible hitherto silenced voices. And I hope that we have gone some way towards representing sort of voices that Maureen has been able to unlock through her work tonight. But now we'll let her use her own and be our final speaker. Thank you, Maureen.
Well, thank you, Katie, and thank you, everybody, for coming. And I'm going to say very, very little because we've heard wonderful contributions this evening and seen some great films which are much, much better than anything that I could add to them. I will just say how we came to start the International Authors Forum. We had been attending in various capacities the WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, which Ida described to you. And it became clear to us that although copyright, i.e. better called in other countries author's right, droit d'auteur, diritto d'autore, etc., etc., there were no authors represented at this gathering. There were all the member states, 190, is it? Yes. And at the back of the hall sit the representatives of civil society, the NGOs, non-governmental organisations, and there was one representing the publishers, there was one representing the record producers, there was one representing the movie industry and their makers, there was one representing librarians, but nobody was actually speaking on behalf of those who create copyright and whose copyright it is. And in my usual bolshy fashion, I got rather bored with this. And we began to talk about it with Barbara Hayes and Katie Webb, and very quickly we came to the conclusion that the only thing to do was to start something. And so the International Authors Forum was founded, and we went to WIPO, and you have to be accredited in order to have the possibility to speak, as Faris has just achieved in its own right. And so we managed to get ourselves accredited. And so from that point on, we decided to try to bring in as many authors' organisations around the world as possible. Some people did say to us, developing countries don't need it, you know, which I think nearly made me expire at this dreadful patronisation. And our most recent success is that Malawi, which was one of the countries we were told didn't really need it, now has a new Copyright Act, including public lending right, and is being extremely active in promoting authors' rights throughout Africa. Copyright is absolutely essential for writers. Without it, we have no basis in law to control our own rights or to be paid for them. And I am delighted to see this quote from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the basis for our moral claim to be rewarded for what we do. Somebody said to me recently, and this is my last point, oh, so you write to make money? And I said, sorry? I make money to write. Thank you all for coming. May I have a special round of applause for Katie Webb and Barbara Hayes. Now we all deserve a drink.
Yeah, what would you like to do? You can ask questions, have drinks, watch a film. I feel I've kept you here for quite some time, so you're no longer captive. But any of those choices are yours. So yeah, does anyone have any questions?
Anyone dying to have a question? Yes.
What does the International Authors Forum make of the present state of academic membership?
I don't know that we have a policy on it. My policy is that I am disturbed by open access. If they want, what in effect it has done is to reduce the academic community to the sort of non-copyright owning status of employed journalists. And although morally, of course, it's wonderful that all your work is available for nothing, it actually isn't fair. And I hope that at least you are able to hold on to the moral rights so that, in theory anyway, they cannot modify or wrongly attribute your work without your permission. But I feel it's a great pity that this has been foisted on the academic community.
Seems like everybody's thirsty. So I'll play you out with the Solomon Islands, but thank you very much for coming tonight.